Hey guys, in this project we're going to be creating a split landing page, and I did something similar to this on my YouTube channel a while ago, and we're going to actually format it to be PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So maybe you have a store and these are just released. I can't even get my hands on a PlayStation 5 right now, but you might have a store where you can come and you can choose one of these, and we're going to create this split screen with a background image with an overlay with some content inside. And if we click on one side, it's going to stretch out to about 75%, the other side 25%. If I hover on the right side, it's going to do the same thing. All right, we'll add a little hover effect onto these, so I think it's just a nice looking little landing page. So that's what we'll be building. It's going to be very CSS heavy. We'll do a little bit of JavaScript at the end for the hover effects, but lots of CSS in this project, so let's jump in. Okay, so we're going to get started. Now, this project is very CSS heavy. That's what we're going to mostly be focusing on. We do need to add some JavaScript to have the hover effect, but a lot of this is going to be styling. So the HTML is actually going to be really simple. Let's just jump right in here, and this is a split landing page. And I don't know why I just did that. And we're going to get rid of this H1, and let's wrap everything in a container. And then we're going to have the left and the right. So both of these are going to have a class of split, and this one will be the left. So we'll also give it a class of left. And then in here it will be, let's do an H1, say PlayStation 5, which is definitely my choice. And then we'll have a link formatted as a button. So I'm going to give this a class of VTN, and it's not going to actually go anywhere. And then for the text in here, we're going to say buy now. Okay, and then what we'll do is just copy this. So this whole div right here, I'm going to copy that down and just change this to right. So this is the right side, and we're going to change this to Xbox Series X and buy now, and that's it. So very simple HTML. It's going to look like this. So we're going to jump into our style sheet. I'm going to use the Roboto font, so we're going to keep that. And then for the body, I'm not going to use flex, so I'm going to get rid of all of these. And yeah, so that should be all set for the body. Now I'm trying to figure out what we should style first. We'll do the content last, like the heading and the button. So let's start with the container, which wraps around everything. We want to position that to be relative, and we want that to have a width of 100% and a height of 100%. And then the background, we'll set that to 333, which is a dark gray. Alright, and this space up here is from the margin on the heading. Now for the split, remember both sides have a class of split. So we're going to position the split absolute within the container, and the width is going to be 50%. So each one will be 50%. The height will be 100%. And the overflow, we want that to be hidden. Alright, so now that it's positioned, let's do this the left side. So if we say split, and we want to target the left side, so dot left, I'm going to set from the left 0, and let's add the background, which is going to be a URL. Now I didn't actually bring the images into this yet, so I'm just going to grab these, and you can get these in the repository. And of course you can use any images that you'd like. So I'm just going to bring these over. So we have the PS5, we have the Xbox. So these are the two images that I'm using. The left side is going to be the PS5. So in here, let's say ps.jpg. Okay, so we can see the background. And we're going to add an overlay to each side, but at least we have the background. And then I just want to set the background, say background repeat. I'm going to set to no repeat, and background size I'm going to set to cover so we see the whole thing. Alright, so that's good. Now for the overlay, actually let's do the right first and then we'll do the overlay. So let's say split with the class of right, and we want to position that on the right side, so from the right 0, and let's add the background. So background is going to be a URL, and it's going to be Xbox JPEG, and let's set the background, oops, forgot my semicolon here. So background repeat will be no repeat, and let's set background size to cover. Alright, so I saved that. Now we have both images side by side. So now we'll go ahead and do the overlays. So we'll start with the left overlay. So we're going to use split left and then the before pseudo selector. So colon before, and we're essentially styling, like, you can think of it as a ghost element that we're going to place over the left side. So when we use before or after, we have to use a content property, and we're just going to put just an empty string for that. And then we want to position this to be absolute, and it's going to have a width of 100% of its container. Same thing with height, that's also going to be 100%. And then we want the overlay, which is going to be a background color. Now I'm gonna put this in a custom property or a variable just so it's easy to change. So let's do var, and we'll call this dash dash left dash bg dash color. Okay, and then let's go up to the top here, and we want to define on our root scope dash dash, what do I call it, left dash bg dash color, and it's going to be RGBA, red green blue alpha, because we needed to have some transparency so we can see the image behind the overlay. So the color is going to be a bluish color, so 87 for red, 84 for green, and 236 for blue, and then for the alpha value will be 0.7. Alright, so if I go ahead and save that, now you can see we have this blue overlay, and while we're at it, we might as well do the right overlay. So let's change this to right BG color, and that's going to be, it's going to be a little lighter than black, so we're going to do 43 for red, green, and blue, and then for the alpha value, let's do 0.8. And then we'll go down here, and where we have our split left before, I'm just going to grab that and go under the right here, and let's change this to split dot right. So now we're targeting the right side, and let's see, this stuff here is going to be the same 100%, and then the color is going to be the right BG color, which just makes it a, it's like a gray, dark gray. Alright, so that's good. Now, let's see, trying to think what I want to do next. Let's style the content now that's inside of it. So we have the text, the H1, and the button that we want to style. So let's do the H1 first, and I'm going to put that right up here. Say H1. I'm going to increase the font size. Let's do 4 rem units, and the color is going to be white, and we want to position it. So let's do position absolute. So it's going to be position absolute on its, in whatever side here, and we want each one to be in the middle. So what we'll do is say from the left 50%, and from the top we'll do 20%. Now if I do that, it's going to put the beginning of the H1 right in the middle, and that's not what I want. I want the middle of the H1 in the middle of the side. So to do that, we just need to add a transform, and we're going to transform on translate X. So we're going to move it on the X-axis, negative 50%, and now it's going to put it, right in the middle. Now I don't want them to go on the next line. I don't want this to wrap, even if this is smaller. Like if I span this out, it's on one line, but even if it's smaller like this, I don't want it to wrap. So we need to set the white space property. So let's say white space, and we're going to set that to no wrap. So now even if it's like that, it's still not going to wrap, which is what I want. Okay, so that's the H1. And now I think what we'll do is style the button, and then in the next video we'll do the hover stuff and add our JavaScript and the rest of the CSS. But let's style the button. So that has a class of btn, and I'm just going to close that up. So first thing I'm going to do here is position it. So let's say position absolute. So it's going to position the absolute within its container, within its side, and we want it to be in the middle. So let's say left 50%, and let's do from the top, we'll say 40%. Now that's going to put the beginning of it in the middle, right? So this here, we want the middle in the middle, so we're going to add transform, and then translate x negative 50%. That's going to put it right in the middle. And then let's take away that underline, so text decoration is going to be none, and the color is going to be white, and we're going to add a border of white, so that, and then solid. And the width, I'm going to use a rem unit, so just 0.2 rem for the width. Okay, so we have our border. Let's make the font size, we'll do 1 rem for the font size, and then for the width of the button, we'll do 15 rem, and then let's add padding of 1.5 rem. And then we want the text to be in the middle. So what I'm going to do is actually display as flex, and then we'll align items center and justify content center. And let's also make it bold. So let's see, right under font size, we'll say font weight and set that to bold. And I want it to be uppercase as well, so add text transform into uppercase. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And I think that's it as far as the button styles go. Now we do want to have, let's see, yeah, we do want to have a background color when we hover over these. So let's actually define that as a variable up here, so those can easily be changed. So we'll say dash dash left, let's do left btn, so left btn dash hover dash color, and that's actually going to be the same as this, except no transparency. So instead of 0.7 for the alpha value, we'll do 1. All right, and then for the right, let's say right button hover, and that's going to be something different. It's going to be the Xbox green, which is 28, 122, 28, and we're going to keep it solid, so 1. And now we can go down here to the button, and let's add, let's say split left dot btn hover, and we want to set the background, let's say background color, we're going to set that to the variable or the custom property of dash dash left button hover color. And the border color, because it has a white border by default, I actually want the border to be the same as this as well, so let's change the border color to that. So if I go over and I hover, okay, nothing's happening. What I do? Split left button hover, background color. Oh, I forgot my semicolons up here. Alright. So now we get that blue hover. Alright, and then we'll do the same for the right side. So let's just grab that and change this to right. and change this and this to right as well. So now I come over here and we get that Xbox green hover color. So in the next video we have a little bit more CSS to write because we have to handle how wide we want it to go when we hover, and of course we have to add the hover effect by adding and removing classes with JavaScript. So we'll get into that in the next video. Okay, so now we want to start to deal with the hover effect. We want, when we hover on this side, on the left, it's going to spread out. The width will be wider. Same thing if we hover over here. So I'm going to manually just add on the container, the div with the class of container. I'm going to add hover left and save that just so we can style it and see what we're doing. So let's say for the class of hover dash left, when that's active, then we want to take the left side and we want to increase the width, and this is going to be in a custom property or a variable called hover dash width. Now at the same time, when hover left is active, the right side is going to be smaller, so we then want to set that width to a variable called other width. Alright, and then we'll go up here and we'll set those variables. When I say variables or custom properties, I mean the same thing. So dash dash hover dash width is going to be 75%. You can change this ratio if you want. So other width is going to be 25%. Now if I save that, hover left is applied to the container, so the left side is now wider. It's 75%, the other side is 25, which is what we want. Now at the same time, let's copy these two lines and say if hover right is applied, then we want the right side to be hover width. And then down here, if hover right is applied, we want the left side to be the other width. So now if I go and I apply here, hover right and save, now this side is wider. So that's exactly what we want. Now I am going to add the JavaScript now so that this gets added dynamically instead of us having to actually put it in here. So now it's going to go back to normal. And if we go into our JavaScript here, let's bring in the left side. So const left, I'm going to use document.query selector. And we want to select the class of left. Copy that down. We also want to grab the right side. So that'll be right. And then we also want to grab the container because that's where we're adding the classes to and removing the classes from. So container. And then we'll take the left, we'll add an event listener with add event listener. And this time we're listening on a mouse enter event, which is basically a hover. And then when that happens, we're going to call an arrow function and take the container. I don't need to put curly braces since this is just one line in this function. I'm going to take the container and I'm going to call class list.add to add a class. And I'm going to add the class of hover dash left. So I'm just dynamically doing what I just manually did in the HTML. All right, now if I save this and I go and I hover over it, you can see that it gets wider and it just stays there. So we need to take care of removing it as well. So we'll say left add event listener, and this time it's going to be mouse leave. All right, so mouse leave, and then we want to remove the hover left. So now you can see that I can go in, gets wider, I move, it gets thinner. And we want to do the same for the right, so I'm just going to copy that and we will take, let's say, this, this, and this, and this, and change it all to right. Okay, so when we mouse enter the right, it's going to add hover right. When we leave, it's going to remove hover right. So now I can go on either side. Now it's just flicking back and forth, which I don't like, so we just want to add a smooth CSS transition. So we just need to take, let's take split right. I'm going to go right here and say split right, split dash left, and let's also grab the pseudo selector. So split dot right colon colon before, and split dot left colon colon before, and we're just going to add a transition. So transition on all, and the speed is going to be inside of a variable called speed, and we'll do an ease in out effect. So let's go up here and apply a speed variable. That way you can just change it here if you want. So speed is going to be 1000 ms, so 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. And now, okay, it looks like the overlay, let's see, what did I mess up down here? So transition, so I've split, split dash left, it should be split dot left. So the overlay was working, but the actual left wasn't. So now you can see that it's working. So it looks pretty good. The last thing I want to do is on smaller screens, like under 800, I want to just make the H1 smaller and the button smaller. So let's add a media query here. So we'll say media, let's say max width 800 pixels. Then let's take the H1 and let's set the font size to, we'll set it to 2 rem, so from 4 rem to 2 rem. And then for the button, so BTN, let's set the width to 12 rem. I think it was 15 to begin with. And we'll also lessen the padding. So padding we'll do 1.2 rem. And let's see, so these are kind of far away. So I guess we could move the H1 down a bit. So from the top, I believe it was 20%. Let's do 30%, and that will move it down. Alright, so I think that looks pretty good, even on smaller screens. So that's when we hit 800 pixels. So that's going to be it. And if you guys want to change up the content, obviously I just thought this was a good idea because of the time of year, and you know, the systems are coming out, they're really popular. I have yet to find a PlayStation 5 myself, so just thought it'd be a good idea. But of course you can change the content up. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this project, and I will see you in the next one.
Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you will be notified with my latest videos and updates.